Now, John, you must face your greatest fear. You must paint a face. Yeah, that was pretty stupid. I won't be doing that again. Anyway, it's time to paint this guy's face. Now, the thing that's good about this, because I'm not a face painter. I can, I've painted a few, but none to a very high level, and this is not something I practice very often. And doing it on camera is even more difficult. So I'm not going to show you here's how you paint a face. I'm going to show you here's me painting a face, because there's a difference between the two. But I'm going to give it the best I can, and we'll see how it turns out. The good thing is it's in 1/20th scale, so the details are large, and it's a little easier to see things. The bad thing is it's in 1/20th scale, and when I botch it up, if I botch it up, when I botch it up, it's going to be one of the two. It's really going to show up. So we'll see how this process goes, and you can decide if the end result is, hey, that's a way to paint a face, or if it's, hey, that's not a way to paint a face. I'm going to start off painting this with Citadel's Bugman's Glow. I just thinned it down with a little bit of water. I'm just completely painting it. I'm not worried about if I hit any of the helmet details or anything like that. It occurred to me as I started to film this bit this morning that I had forgotten to do something that I had been meaning to do. I painted the Bugman's Glow on. This is actually like 2 or 3 days after that last bit. And this morning I was going to, thinking, okay, what are my next steps? And I remembered I had been meaning to do, as I've seen quite a few mini painters do, and a few people have suggested, is paint the eyes first and then go in and paint the other colors to clean it up. So I'm going to give that method a shot, because I figure if I just go ahead and paint the googly eyes on now, then I won't have a problem with it later. And you can see I'm probably exaggerating it a bit too much for, well, I was started to say comedic effect, but I don't know if it's really funny. It's more stupid. But there. Okay. His eyes are definitely white. I don't remember if I mentioned it, but that last color I used for the googly eyes was Vallejo Sky Gray. All right, the next step, of course, is putting the pupil in place. I'm going to use German gray for that. I'm going to use this Wargamer detail brush, which has a very fine tip. I'm not even going to try to do this on camera. I've got to get this 2 inches from my face to even see what I'm doing, to even have a chance of seeing what I'm doing. So, but my goal is to put 2 dots in the pupil that make him look like he's looking at something and not got, lizard eyes with one going off one way and one going off the other. We'll see how I do. All right, I did as someone else suggested and tried to just paint the pupil as a stripe. They're a little offset, but I think I have them looking in the same direction. So now I'm going to get some Bugman's Glow and try and clean up around that eyelid, and we'll see how it looks. I'm not entirely certain I like it, but I'm not going to try and do it again. Now for the rest of the time I'm painting the face, I get to have this guy staring at me. That's the other thing that creeps me out about painting faces. I can't remember the guy's name. I think he's from Russia, but I may be wrong. But he's a miniature painter, and a very, very good miniature painter. And one of the things he suggested in painting faces is don't do this traditional step of adding a wash, but rather start with the base coat. Let that be your darkest color, and then build up to lighter colors from there. So I'm going to try that, because I think part of the problem I've had in the past is I rely on a wash, and I put that wash in, and then you get these really stark, deep shadows, and you try and build up from that, and they end up continuing to look just very, very stark. So what I've done now, to go with his advice, is I mixed about 50-50 Kislev Flesh and Bugman's Glow. And what I want to do is just go through this process, and it's thinned very heavily with water. And I'm just going to go through this process of hitting the highlights and then moving out from there and just kind of layering it up really slowly. And I'm going to continue the process using pure Kislev Flesh. Okay, I think I misspoke in that last segment about the color I was using. I shoot this over several days, so I sometimes forget what I say. So this is the order I'm going in. I did pure Bugman's Glow as a base. Then I did Bugman's Glow and Cadian Flesh Tone for that first glaze. And then the one that I just did was pure Cadian Flesh Tone. Now I'm going to do Cadian Flesh Tone and Kislev Flesh. Then I'll do Kislev Flesh. And then after I do this last bit of Kislev Flesh, I'll evaluate it and see if I want to add some white to this to do even further highlights. So that's the three colors I'm using. This is an equal mix of Cadian Flesh Tone and Kislev Flesh. And again, just continuing into these highlights, but each time pulling back a little bit and allowing the previous layers to stand on their own. All right, now I'm going in with the pure Kislev Flesh. I added some Vallejo Cold White to the Kislev Flesh. I want to add in another highlight. I'm going to go back in with some Bugman's Glow that I thinned down. Just build up a couple of layers on that bottom lip. Yeah, see, that looks pretty good. Yeah. Just don't look at it too close. Obviously, painting faces takes practice, and I need more practice. I guess the dilemma I run into is to get really good at it, you got to do more than a few, but I don't paint them that often, and I don't always have time to practice at it, so I'm just going to have to learn to live with what I end up with. I could repaint this, but I think it's time to move on. One of the main things I think I could have done early on is not use that dark color for the pupils. I think kind of a neutral gray with just a touch of blue added in or something like that. Something not quite so stark would have been okay. I'm not sure I'm liking the Bugman's Glow as the base for this. I've always used that, but I've found myself, as I'm painting these layers on, I just found myself fighting that. Maybe it's just me, because plenty of people make it work, but I'll just live with this. I want to base coat his helmet in this Luftwaffe uniform, World War II. I'm just going to give this, I've thinned it down so that it goes on smooth. I'm just going to give this several coats. Now, when it comes up right up to the face, I'm going to actually use a different color for that, but I'm still deciding on the color. Now he's got this kind of liner thing going on here around the edge of his face, and also down here on the neck. And if you're wondering, well, why did you paint the blue-gray stuff on there before you painted that on there? I wasn't sure what I wanted to use. I wasn't sure whether I wanted a light demarcation between the helmet and the face, or a dark. And so by kind of painting this on there roughly, it let me see it, and I decided I wanted a light demarcation. So now I'm going to very carefully paint in that deck tan around there, and then I'll go in and finish filling in with the blue-gray to clean that up, and then see where I go from there. Well, I'm going to call this done. I painted the Luftwaffe color, whatever the heck it was, on the helmet, and then I lightened it up, did some dry brushing just to try and give it a little bit of depth. I used some contrast paint, Basilicanum Gray, to kind of reinforce the demarcation between the white undergarment and the the helmet. I used a little of the Gilman's flesh to try and edge the face a little bit, put a little under the eyes. Thought maybe make him look a little tired. But I'm at the point now, I'll admit it, I'm frustrated right now. I've gone back and forth cleaning up lines on this thing, and I'm finally at the point where, okay, I'm done. This is it. This is what it's going to look like. Unless sometime between now and when I finish, if I change my mind and maybe just do a complete repaint, I'm finished. So let's call this is a way to not paint a face. I'm not happy with this at all. So anyway, but I'll stick it in the model, and hopefully the focus will be on the weathering and everything else. And and I've done these figures before for Maschinen Krieger, and this one actually looks better than the others that I've done. I'm still not happy with it. But like I've said, it takes practice, and I guess back here, it doesn't look too bad. It's only when you get up here, you can see the wonkiness of it. It just, anyway, those eyes, I suck at eyes. So anyway, I'm going to call this done, move on to painting the rest of it, which I'm much more comfortable with, and just chalk this one up to being a milestone on the road towards being better at painting faces, hopefully, one day. Now, at the end of every episode, I always say, if you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong. Sometimes I need to explain that as this has demonstrated, every moment of every model is not always fun. What I look for is the net effect. When I get done with the model, do I look at it and I go, yeah, I had more fun than not with that. I knew going in painting a face would not be something fun. It's a challenge for me. Challenges aren't always fun. Trying to improve can be frustrating, but I know the cycle works. Go through this stuff. Go through the stuff that's hard. Keep doing it, and eventually you'll get to a point where it will be fun, because you'll feel like you can do it better than you could before, and you'll be able to start accomplishing on the model what you see in your head. So this is me painting a figure, and I hope in some way this video has been helpful, at least showing you maybe a way not to do it or some things to avoid. So I will close by saying, in this hobby, if you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong, even when it's frustrating. Happy day to you, friends. Bye-bye.